Hey everybody, it's the Prez, Lawrence Presman. It's Monday. You're watching The Betting Edge with the Prez. Today's the NFL opening line report with the co-founder and my partner in crime, Marco D'Angelo. We're the owners of WagerTalk Media, home of WagerTalk.com, SportsMemo.com, and of course, the iconic, legendary Gold Sheet, which we're super excited to own. I'm going to bring Marco in. We're talking opening line report today. We're going to look at every game on the board for NFL Week 5. We're going to discuss where we see the lines moving and maybe a little bit of what we're thinking before our research even begins. Hey, Marco, 4-0 yesterday.
What can I say, buddy? It's been a great run. We're seeing things very well right now and looking to keep that streak going as we head into NFL next week. One game left on the card tonight, finish up week 4, and knock on wood, Prez, I wanted to keep it rolling. It's been good.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually, you know, it's not only you though, Marco. I mean, let's talk some business quick before we get into the Thursday night game. But I mean, Brian Leonard.
I tell you, Brian Leonard's so hot yesterday. If you follow me on Twitter, you saw I released rare footage. I mean, this is rare footage. It's like seeing, Bigfoot, live in the woods, or the Loch Ness Monster. We know it's out there, but very few sightings of it. We saw Brian actually pick up a check in Las Vegas yesterday for a meal.
Yeah.
That's how hot he's running.
Yeah, funny how he waited for me not to be there to do that. Dave Koken, brother, 19-8 in college football to start the season, 10-5 in NFL. Teddy is rolling as well. Bobby Liggs is killing it. Pretty much everyone but me.
Well, Prez, we're waiting for you to get it turned around. It'll happen, buddy. It's been you've been on the rough side of some bad luck for sure this year, and trust me, I'm not going to sit here and make fun of you or anything, because I had the worst baseball season that I ever had. The month of June was just ridiculous, and I understand what that's like going through it. But you keep doing what you're doing, and you trust your work and trust your numbers. And lo and behold, like I'm doing right now in football, it turns around, and when it turns around in a big way.
Yeah, and Marco, I mean, listen, what everybody needs to understand, and this is important, is we do this 365 days of the year, and Marco has been doing it for about 35 years. I've been doing it for
40, buddy. This is my 40th year.
Yeah, 40 years for Marco. I've been doing this for 22 or 3 years, and imagine doing this for 22 or 23 years and not avoid slumps. It's not possible. You have a bad month. Do you know what a bad month is? A bad month is equivalent to a bad hour for a guy who bets for a week. And that's the perspective. I mean, yes, I'm doing okay in college football. I've had the single worst start to the NFL season that I've ever had in my life. But anyway, listen, everyone else is rolling. Your back must be hurting, although you are at least sharing the load with Teddy, Dave Koken, and Brian Leonard. But I'm going to get it together, and I'm excited about it. I mean, I feel like I have a great opportunity to challenge myself to fight back and turn this NFL season around, and that's what I'm going to do. Plus hockey, which is my best sport, period, starts on Wednesday, so I'm pretty pumped about that. Everybody, what we're going to do today is talk about the opening line report. We're going to look at every game on the board. We're going to take an educated, and we are educated, an educated guess on whether you should bet those plays now or wait. And we're going to give you a quick, some quick couple of thoughts on where we're looking this week. Marco, before I get into that, we had a poster commented on one of my videos and said, "Prez, you narcissistic, arrogant dick. You opened the show with You are the co-founder of WagerTalk Media, owner of WagerTalk Sports Memo and the Gold Sheet. That is so arrogant and so disgusting. What? I don't get it. Like, this is our business. I'm literally just telling you the names of the businesses that we, Marco and I, own.
Yeah, I get it, Prez. You got to understand, social media, everybody loves to chime in with their thoughts on things. If you want to understand an arrogant asshole sounds like, go back and Google me from about 10 years ago and see where I worked and who I worked for. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Prez is a breath of fresh air. Trust me, guys. I love working with the guy, and he tries to be funny, maybe a little bit arrogant, but trust me, there are guys in this space that are way, way worse, and I give him a little slack.
Dude, I consider myself a sincere, kind-hearted, warm guy, and I actually care. I mean, Marco, who takes losing worse than me?
Oh, trust me. My Sundays, you don't realize when I'm watching the games on Sundays, guys, there is usually a big plate of chicken wings in front of me. And wings got sauces and everything. Do you know how many times I got to stop eating my wings on Sunday, wipe my hands off so I can pick up my phone and answer the text from the Prez that his team just fumbled again? The guy takes it hard. Let me tell you.
I'm 7-27 in turnovers against me in 4 weeks of NFL. Because I track my turnovers. 7-4, 27 against. How the hell am I supposed to overcome such a ridiculous ratio?
Well, you're not, Prez, but as we do in handicapping, whenever you look at stats like that and you look at teams that are doing well and then you see them have such a plus turnover margin, you know that that's not sustainable. It's going to come back to the pack. Remember last year in the Nebraska Cornhuskers, they opened the season 0-6, the first season of Scott Frost. They were -7 turnovers through those first 6 games. Then they went the second half of the season. They were plus on the turnover margin, and they went 4-2 down the stretch, with their only 2 losses being against Ohio State and Iowa, both by 1 score or less, because they were plus in the turnover margin. It is going to turn for you, and when it does, you're going to be plus EV. Trust me. That's when you want to ride you. So hang in there and don't abandon ship. But
I hear you,
Prez,
bro.
We do got to get on here because our aforementioned Dave Koken, I'm doing his radio show in exactly about 55 minutes from now, so we got to roll through this.
Seattle, the line opened but for like a split second at LA Rams -2. It went almost immediately to a pick'em. And now we have Seattle, a Thursday night game, hosting the Rams at -1. The over and under is 49. Marco, I don't really have a take on where this line is going to go. I mean, we saw the Rams lose yesterday and lose terribly and lose at home to what I don't consider a very good team. And then we saw Seattle head over to Arizona and beat them. Right off the bat, I'm thinking that the Rams are a bet here. I think we've got a double overreaction in play. I think, everyone's seeing the Rams lose yesterday, and they probably forgot how badly Seattle lost 2 weeks ago and how bad Arizona is as a team. I don't know where the line's going to go, though.
The line's definitely going to go to Seattle. And Prez, if you watched that #1 ranked show this week, at Bet On It show in the NFL, you may have heard of it. I gave out the Tampa Bay Bucks as my best bet on the show. And this is one of those things, Prez, where if you look at the numbers, there's no way you could have bet Tampa Bay. But I use situations in my handicapping, and this was a god-awful spot for the Rams last week. They were coming off that big game against the Cleveland Browns on Sunday Night Football. They opened up the first 4 weeks of the season zigzagging across country. They went to Carolina Carolina to open the season, back home for that big NFC rematch from the championship game against the Saints. Then they roll back home or back on the East Coast to play Cleveland on a Sunday night, and then they were back home to play Tampa, who just got beat the week before by a rookie quarterback, the New York Giants, and they had this game up on Thursday night. It was a horrible spot for the Rams, and that's why you had the result you had yesterday. Is this an overreaction? Absolutely. Will the market correct itself? I don't think so. They're going to look at the Rams, and right now everybody's bashing Jared Goff. He had a horrible game yesterday. They're going to look to Seattle and Russell Wilson, who looked good yesterday. Granted, like you said, it was against Arizona. I'm not saying I like Seattle in this game, but I understand why the line did what it did. It opened up 1.5 on the look-ahead line the week before, and then you saw a 2 for a brief moment yesterday, and now we're seeing 1s painted across the board on Seattle. I think that's where it's going to be at, and I'd like to see it go up a hair more, Prez, to be honest with you, because then we would be getting into teaser territory with the Rams, getting them over the touchdown on a 6-point teaser.
He's Marco D'Angelo, hottest handicapper on the planet right now. 23-7 football run. No commercials today, so just take a look at the scroll. It's right there. Get 7 days of all of Marco's plays, including his baseball, for $79. Use the promo code NMD for Marco D'Angelo, MD79. Brother, let's skip this Pittsburgh-Baltimore game because the line might likely move by tomorrow. Chicago on the road. We had a moment, a split second in time where Chicago was -7. I don't even count that. It's now -4.5 to 5 against Oakland. The over and under is 41. You know, dude, I was on Minnesota yesterday and you were on Chicago, and I felt like I lost my quarterback. Twice.
Yeah, you know, it didn't hurt Trubisky getting knocked out of the game and Chase Daniels taking over. This line, the 7 that was there briefly, I'm surprised that the 7 was there because they're still listing it is undecided as far as the quarterback goes, but I think it's going to be Chase Daniels. The other part of it is this game is in London, Prez. It's not a true road game. It is a road game, but they're not playing at Oakland. They're playing in London. The other part of this situation is you're going to see a little bit of an overreaction. Oakland, big game yesterday, and, you know, you're going to hear me talking about these different games. Oakland was another one of my plays yesterday. I love the Oakland Raiders. It was a situational spot against Indianapolis. Now these two teams are going to London. I don't like these London games, I'll be honest with you, because not only are you handicapping talent, you have to handicap motivation. We do that every week, and I do that very well. That's why I'm such a good situational handicapper. But now you throw in a third ingredient, and that is, will this team take the trip to London seriously? Are they going to be sightseeing? Are they going to have some fun? Oakland's been to London before, so you know, they've done it recently. So that takes a little bit of the novelty off for the Raiders. Chicago, they need to take care of business. And when this defense comes to play, and that was my whole basis on the Chicago play yesterday, I was going against Kirk Cousins. And again, he still is not beating a good team. And that defense played marvelous. Yeah. I mean, Minnesota didn't cross midfield, I think, until the third quarter sometime in yesterday's game. Where this line goes is going to depend on the quarterback situation. But this is an instance, Prez, and you made a joke about it saying you thought you lost your quarterback. I think the Bears right now, for momentum-wise and confidence-wise, they're better off with Chase Daniels in there than Mitchell Trubisky. And if you saw Nagy yesterday in his play calling, he changed nothing in his playbook. In fact, he opened up the playbook for Chase Daniels yesterday. He didn't take anything off the table. And that tells me he has confidence in Chase Daniels, and you saw that with the rest of the team. I think it'll be a plus if he starts, and I think you'll see this line tick back up a hair.
Yeah, I think the line's going to move towards Chicago as well, Marco. So I feel if you're going to be betting Chicago, you should bet it now. But also, Marco, the under. It's 41 right now. You know, the field, one of the things you didn't mention they have to take into account is playing at Wembley. The grass is going to be longer, no matter how you slice it. And I think we're going to see this number drop. I wouldn't say substantially, but it's at 41 now. I'm telling you it's going to be around 39 and a half. So guys, if you're planning on betting Chicago or the under, I would head over and get those bets in ASAP. We'll skip the Cincinnati-Arizona game. Carolina opening line came out at 4. Pretty even money across the board. 51% of the bets are being written on Carolina, yet the line did drop to 3.5, and there's a couple of threes on the board. These kind of line moves are very interesting to me, Marco, because with a 50-50 amount of tickets being written on Carolina and Jacksonville, yet the line is coming down. Clearly, there's a lot of public money already bet on Carolina, and clearly some extremely sharp, wise men are betting Jacksonville, because this line is a small reverse line move, if you will. Over and under came out at 42. It's now down to 41. I think that as well will drop slightly. Ended around 40 and a half on Sunday. What are you thinking in this one?
Well, the line, I'll be honest with you, Prez, I was shocked that we did see that 4 at all today. The look-ahead line from the Westgate was 3 on this game, where it's heading towards now. It's at 3.5 right now. And really, from yesterday's games, neither team looked super, but neither team looked bad. Both got wins. They weren't the greatest of fashion wins, but they got the job done. So I don't know how you could penalize or praise either team off of yesterday. I will say this much for Carolina. Kyle Allen has done well the 2 games that Cam Newton's been out, and he is listed as the starter for Sunday. This will be his first home game. It is easier to play on the road than it is to play at home. More pressure on a quarterback in front of the home crowd. So we'll see how he handles it at home. But Jacksonville and Gardner Minshew, this guy has the opportunity, just because of his personality, to be one of the more popular players in the NFL if he continues this run. So you may see some love for Jacksonville because of him, because they're a little more flashy. But let's not forget, Jacksonville still has the issues with Ramsey wanting to be traded and everything else with that team. But they finally got the offense helping out the defense, and maybe that'll change Ramsey's mind, because I know that's been part of the problem the last several years when they had Blake Bortles behind center. It was like a one-way marriage. The defense was doing everything, and the offense wasn't pulling their weight, and they had a divided locker room. That locker room's playing together for the first time in a couple years since they had that run to the AFC Championship game a couple years ago. I have no opinion on this game right now. I thought it should have came out at 3 instead of 4 and let the market decide where the correct number is, but they're doing it in reverse. It came out 4, and now we're working backwards.
Sorry, Marco.
No problem.
September's almost over. Hey, me and you are doing dinner on Thursday night. Super excited about that. Heading down to Vegas. Guys, just to really give you a quick update on what's going on this week over at WagerTalk TV, our YouTube channel. Last week we had over 100 people enter in the Joe's vs. Pros contest. Currently we are sitting at 3-1, the pros, with Cincinnati to go tonight. And then we will grade all the plays, find out who beat us, and hand you guys all the free wager bucks that you earned. That show is now going to be taped on Tuesday, as we need to wait until the Monday results, so make sure to check back tomorrow for that play. The betting edge will happen Monday to Friday this week, like always. Dave Koken, Teddy Covers, and myself will be doing the college football betting show tomorrow. Myself and Ralph Michaels will be doing the NFL presidential address on Wednesday. Just a quick heads up, I am away Thursday, Friday, Monday, and Tuesday. Drew Martin will be taking over the hosting duties on the betting edge. Puck time starts on Wednesday. Alex B. Smith will be handling the hosting duties Thursday, Friday, Monday, and Tuesday. And Marco, him, Kelly, and VR, Gianni the Greek, make sure to watch that show, bet on it. It's absolutely lit the internet on fire. They're going to do over 100,000 views by the end of the season. And Marco, you've got a college football betting show coming with the same two people, Gianni and VR. I'm excited, man. I'm excited. There's so much great content that we are producing over at WagerTalk. Sports Memo is doing the same. Drew and Teddy are doing their opening line reports in the NFL, the same type of show as Marco and I. It's amazing stuff what is going on, brother.
Absolutely. And the Bet On It NFL edition this week, we absolutely killed it. All three of us hit our best bets. My trap game, sandwich game, I do one or the other each week. 4-0 on the season now with that. And my trap game yesterday was taking the Oakland Raiders. The trap was Indianapolis. It's just a fun show, Prez. I highly recommend everybody checking it out.
Marco, New York Giants. The line came out Minnesota -6. Again, it was only up for a minute. It's now... Well, it's 5s and 4.5s across the board. The total is interesting. It opened at 46. We have about 56% of the money coming in on the under. We're now seeing 45s, and I feel like this number will drop. I feel like people are going to think that Danny Dimes, as they're calling him, is going to struggle to put up points against that vaunted Minnesota defense. And nobody can expect Minnesota to put up more than a safety. So I'm thinking if you're going to bet the under, bet it now. And I feel, Marco, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like the money's going to come in on the Giants as the week progresses.
Well, this is an interesting game from the standpoint, Prez. We don't know how good Daniel Jones is. You can't compare facing Tampa Bay's defense and then the Washington Redskins defense to what he's going to face this week with Minnesota. Now, I'm not a fan of laying this many points on the road with the Vikings, especially with Kirk Cousins, who really has not done anything this year so far. What you will see that will be much better than they were able to do yesterday, and it's what I alluded to when we broke this game down last week with Jeff Ostheim on the show. Minnesota wasn't going to be able to run the football against Chicago. And when Delvin Cook is not running the football, that means Kirk Cousins has to carry the team. And Kirk Cousins isn't going to carry the team against not too many teams, let alone one of the best defenses in the NFL and the Bears. That's not going to be the case this week. They'll have a balanced offense. Minnesota will be able to run the football against the Giants. So that should help Minnesota offensively. Will Daniel Jones be able to get the job done against this Minnesota defense? I don't have that answer for you. My gut feeling was we're going to see exactly how good he is this week. He's going to be tested. He's going to have pressure. And the fact that Minnesota's coming off a loss, you're going to have a very focused Minnesota team. Yeah. So my knee-jerk reaction in this game, and although at the number that it is right now, it's not a number that you're supposed to tease. So before anybody watches the show and says, Marco was suggesting teasing Minnesota down on the road, no, I am just saying that if this line would go the other direction and get to 6, I would consider Minnesota as a teaser because I think Minnesota wins this game. But I'm never going to tease a game through the number of 0, okay? And if we're sitting at numbers of 4.5 and 5, and you tease Minnesota, you're going to go through the number of 0. So, no, I'm not suggesting that. But if it gets to 6 or 6.5, that is the way that I would play the game.
Speaking of teasers, Marco, Philadelphia is going to find themselves in a whole slew of them, especially some 10-pointers. I see New England, Philadelphia, and Kansas City on a whole bunch of teaser cards this week. A line came out for Philly at minus 14. It's still pretty much 14 across the board. I mean, interesting, 5 Dimes has a 14.5, and Circa has a 13.5. So it's a bit all over the place, but we got about 82% of the betting, at least ticket writing, coming in on the New York Jets. I think Philly is a buy team right now, Marco. I think not only did they look good in the second half, especially against Green Bay, but I think with the Rams showing that they are beatable, with New Orleans having their injury, with Dallas unable to move the ball at all against a mediocre New Orleans defense, I think Philly is looking at themselves and saying, hey, we got a chance to really dominate this conference. We're getting healthy. We're coming back. We got the Jets on tap. I think we're going to see money coming in on Philly here, Marco. Over and under 44.5. I think that's going to likely stay the way it is. But I feel like if you're going to bet Philly, you need to bet them now.
Sitting at that number of 14, obviously such a key number. You don't want to lose the 14 and go to 14.5. I will say this for you, though, Prez. As far as the situation goes, this is a bad spot for Philadelphia. Yes, they got extra time coming off that Thursday game. Well, you know what? The Jets have even more time. They're coming off their bye week. So now you've had 2 weeks for Luke Falk to get acclimated to the Jets offense. Their Jets are down. We all know they're down to the third-string quarterback right now. The other part of it is Philadelphia is coming off that monster game against Green Bay, but they have on deck Minnesota, a big NFC game, and then they have Dallas after that. Both of those games are on the road. And then they follow it with a third straight road game against Buffalo. This is going to be a 5-week stretch for the Philadelphia Eagles in which they're going to have played 4 of the 5 games on the road. Big caution here with laying the big number with Philadelphia, because you know what? They don't bet. All they have to do is win the game. And I could see them very easily getting a lead and sitting on it. And their defense has allowed 24 or more points in every game so far. Now, granted, they haven't faced an offense as anemic as the Jets have, but still, this is not a shutdown defense. So just be careful with the Philadelphia laying the points. This might be one of those games that makes the bet on it show where I'm talking about situational stuff. I can tell you I circled this one right off the bat when I saw it. We're still working the rest of the card, but that is my comments on this game.
Yeah, I mean, there's no chance I'm taking Philly here either. Guys, Marco's on a 23-7 football run, both college and NFL. He's also going to have bets on all the World Series games. You can get 7 days of all his plays for $79. Use the promo code NM. Oh my God, I've done that twice. MD, Marco D'Angelo, 79. New Orleans, Marco, 5.5 at first. There is now a 3. I'm not even kidding you, Marco. It's 4 almost across the board. There's a few 3.5s, and Bookmaker, which is a leading book, literally as we spoke, moved it down to 3 minus 120. And I think this is where it's going, my friend. Obviously, we had a huge win by both these teams yesterday. They both have to feel really good about what's going on. We have an over and under of 47. But I think if you plan on betting Tampa Bay and there are 4s out there, bet it right now.
Yeah, this one surprises me with the move. I realized Tampa looked super yesterday, and they put up the 50 points yesterday. But this is a number. The look-ahead line was 6.5. And granted, Tampa exceeded expectations yesterday. But New Orleans was a home underdog and won. Granted, it was a god-awful game to watch. It was about as much fun as watching paint dry, and they got aided at the end of the first half. I actually tweeted out home clock advantage. I don't know how they ran a play with 4 seconds left and had 2 seconds remaining to get a field goal.
I
attempt.
do. Oh, I know how.
Home clock advantage.
No. Prez bet Dallas.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a reason too. So that was in that field goal loomed very big in the outcome of the game. So I can see the stock dropping somewhat on New Orleans. Maybe from the look ahead line of 6.5, I can understand it coming down to 6, 5.5, maybe even 5. But I'm not getting carried away on the Tampa Bay love just yet. Remember, Jameis Winston hasn't had too many good back-to-back games in his career. And I mentioned all of the things that were going against the Rams in that setup spot last week for them. So just be a little cautious. And as we speak, another book just went to 3.5. Westgate here in Las Vegas just went to 3.5.
Yeah, and New Orleans
moving off the floor.
And bookmaker just adjusted. Yeah, Westgate. I just saw the move, and New Orleans bookmaker went from 3 minus 120 when we started talking about him to 3 minus 125. Marco, Houston. Man, did they look bad yesterday, but not nearly as bad as Atlanta. I'm done with this Atlanta team. I don't even get it, dude. How do you have Devontae Freeman, Calvin Ridley, Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, Austin Hooper, Mohamed Sanu, and you put up 10 freaking points at home? I don't get it. Houston, they also got a bunch of power on their offense. They couldn't put up anything either. We got a total of 49. Oh my God. Marco, if you added both the games, both teams yesterday, I don't think you get to 49. Line came out at 3.5. It's now bet up to 5 on Houston. I think it's, look, I don't think we're going to see a 6 on the board, but I can't see a bunch of people jumping on the Falcons right now.
No, yesterday was an absolutely ugly game, and I was on Tennessee yesterday. That was one of my 4 winners yesterday, and simply put, Atlanta has not looked good this season yet. You look at their 4 games and the teams that they beat. The only team they beat was Philadelphia, and they were life and death to do that on the Sunday night game. They were aided. They had 3 turnovers in that game, but Philly also had 3 turnovers in inopportune times. Philadelphia's turnovers. They were steamrolled at Minnesota to open the season. They were getting blown out at Indianapolis, and that's what I alluded to in the game yesterday, is that 27-24 score was very misleading. They were down 20-3 at the half in that game and put up 2 fourth-quarter late touchdowns to make it look respectable. And yesterday, 10 points against the Tennessee defense. Granted, Tennessee had a couple extra days to prepare for that game because they played on Thursday the week before. But Atlanta, you only put up 10 points at home. There's something wrong. There's definitely something wrong. Houston, Carolina's not a bad team. They got the quarterback issues, but from top to bottom, that team's got some talent on it, and it's got a decent defense. I think you'll see Houston score points this week because Atlanta hasn't stopped anybody. Everybody scored 20 or more against them. The move, I can't say that it's justified to have this much of a move. The look-ahead line on this game was 4.5. Houston 4.5 was the look-ahead line. So you have to have an adjustment from yesterday, but both teams were bad yesterday. So how much can you adjust it? For me, I think if you like Houston, I would do it sooner than later because I just don't think anybody's going to buy into Atlanta right now.
Tennessee, we were just talking about. Line came out at 2.5. They're hosting Buffalo. We have a total of 38. This is a really interesting game. Line move wise, we were already seeing some 3s on the board. So, right now, again, like a bit of a reverse line move. 71% of the tickets are being written on Buffalo, yet the line is moving in favor of money coming in on Tennessee. So, guys, these are very important things to notice. You have obviously a lot of tickets being written on Buffalo and a very small number on Tennessee, yet the bookmakers clearly respect the money that is coming in on Tennessee and are actually adjusting the lines accordingly. Marco, I mean, the bottom line here is New England got lucky coming out of this game with a win. Blocked punt, turnover at the end of the game. This Buffalo team, I think, is for real. I would not be surprised at a 6-3 score here. I think the under has gone up, but I think it is going to come down. I think if you're going to bet the under, I would bet it right now. Thoughts?
You know what? This is the line move that doesn't make sense to me. I know Tennessee looked good yesterday, but as we talked about Atlanta's problems, Atlanta's not been a good football team. Buffalo 3-1 now. Now everybody screamed that their 3-0 start was because of their schedule. They played the Jets, they played the Giants, they played Cincinnati. All right, I get all of that. The look-ahead line had Tennessee -1. What we're here to do is to say what happened yesterday that justified whatever the line is now. And to me, even though Buffalo got their first loss of the season, I got more respect for Buffalo in the loss than I did in any of their 3 wins. So why do we move this line from 1 to Tennessee 3? That doesn't make sense. Yes, Tennessee looked good yesterday, but Atlanta looked bad. And if you want to say, well, what's Tennessee? Who have they played? Well, they beat Cleveland the first week of the season.
Bunch of turnovers.
Yeah,
I was on the under in that game. I think there were 5 turnover touchdowns.
Tennessee has been the best team in football in taking care of the football. They have only 1 turnover on the season. They've only turned it over once, and that's going to make any team better than they are when you're taking care of the football. Buffalo, you can say, hey, how about the letdown? They're coming off New England. That is the only concern that I can put an asterisk on Buffalo. They played their guts out and basically gave the game away. They outgained New England.
Brother, I think it was it had to have been in the top 10 worst games Brady has ever played.
18 of 39, 150 yards passing were the net yards
Interception
yesterday.
In the end zone.
That was their lone turnover, New England, but Buffalo had 4 of them. When I saw the line at 2.5, my initial reaction was that I am going to be looking at Buffalo on a teaser. This is the classic teaser spot. You got a low total. You got a 2.5 point spread. You add the 6 point teaser, it gets them to 8.5. But now that the line's at 3, if it takes another tick to 3.5, Buffalo becomes a better straight play than they do teaser play. And that's where, I got to sit and wait now. I don't think the line comes back down. Usually once you see a line move to 3, it's not, it's either going to stay 3 or you're going to have that buyback immediately. Anybody that was looking for the 3 will grab the 3 and send it back to 2.5. Once it stays at 3 for a while, it's generally going to stay there or later in the week get to 3.5. So that's where I'm at. Let's see what the next couple hours do with this game and what the public does. But, at 2.5, Buffalo is definitely a teaser play. At 3 and 3.5, I'd probably be looking at the Buffalo side.
Yeah, and Penny just moved the line up to 3, and they're also a book that sets the market. Speaking of teasers, Marco, I think the most teased team for Week 5 is going to be the LA Chargers, and they're sitting on, in my opinion, and I know you like to tease these 3s to 9s, I like 6.5 down is my favorite tease of all. I know it only crosses one key number, but that's, if I could get 5 games that are 6.5, ooh, yummy. Line came out at 6.5. We have a 6 on the board, Marco. We have, 73% of the bets taken so far are on the Chargers. 95% of the bets taken are on the over. Yet we have seen the line drop from 44 to 43 and a half. My attitude is, I think they're going to be sevens across the board here, Marco. I think if you want to bet the Chargers, you bet them now.
Well, the one thing about the Denver side, and I'm sure that we'll see some stats from our guys, the stat man, Michaels, Ralph.
As Brent Musburger says, our guys in the desert. Because we got guys in the desert. You're one of them. He ain't the only people with guys in the damn desert.
This is a game that you're going to look at it, and the Chargers just have not been impressive. They're winning the games, but they're not impressive in doing so. They beat Miami yesterday, but they're also the only team this year that's actually trailed to Miami at one point. Miami had a 7-3 lead in that game. Short-lived, but it's the first time they had a lead all year. The comfortable, excuse me, I beat you by 20-point win yesterday. But the Denver Broncos, they're 0-4. But you look at their 4 losses, Prez, and they're in every single ball game. This is a spot where this team just can't get over the hump. They come back and took the lead late yesterday, just like they did in the Chicago game, only to have Jacksonville drive the length of the field and get the game-winning field goal, 26-24. You look at their losses now. They lose by 8 to Oakland, a one-possession game. They lose by 2 to Chicago. They lose by 11 to Green Bay, and we talked about that game on last week's show. That was one of the most misleading, lopsided 11-point victories for Green Bay. Is Denver had -3 in the turnover department. Up and down the field they went in the first half on Green Bay and couldn't get the ball in the end zone because of turnovers. And then they lose to Jacksonville and a backup quarterback. That's a concern that Jacksonville was able to put up 26 points against them. The Chargers are going to get their points. Phillip Rivers is going to do what he does. But the Chargers by no means have been a dominant team. They're 2-2 with their 2 losses coming to Detroit, which they should have won, and then Houston, a game they could have won. I'm not agreeing with you or disagreeing with you. I don't think this gets to 7. I think you're going to see money on Denver because of the desperate 0-4 team, and it is a division game, division road dog.
Yeah.
Early in the season. I just don't see it getting to 7.
I'm understanding what you're saying, but I look at that game so similarly to I look at the Cleveland-Baltimore game, and I think, man, if Cleveland can go in at +7, man, there's a bigger gap between the Chargers and Denver as there is between Baltimore and Cleveland. Marco, this New Orleans game is fascinating. I mean, as we're talking, Pinnacle just went to 4.5 and Grande just went to 3.5. There's money coming in all over the place on this New Orleans game. Listen, I want to talk.
One thing I want to tell you, though, be careful on that. When you're quoting the Pinnacle number, look at what the juice is on that.
It's a true
it's like almost one of those alternative lines, it basically is what that is there. But yes, it is crazy with what we're seeing. And we finally, the first Vegas book I'm seeing has just, got involved as well. Westgate, we said, moved to 3.5. Caesars just went to 3.5 on the game as well. So some stuff going on with the game. And you know what? I will say this much. Teddy Bridgewater did not look good yesterday. They won the game, but Teddy Bridgewater did just enough to get the team the victory. And the only thing that made Teddy Bridgewater look acceptable yesterday was that Dak Prescott did absolutely nothing for the Dallas Cowboys.
Green Bay Packers, they're in Dallas. Both teams are coming off of a loss. The line came out at Dallas -4. It's going to go down. It's down already to 3.5 all over the board. Yet, again, 72% of the tickets are being written on Dallas. So, again, We have the general public putting money in on Dallas, and we have some smart money coming in on Green Bay. The over 50% of the money is being bet on that, and it has dropped from 48 to 47. So again, some smart money coming in on the under. Marco, I know you're going to talk about this game a lot on Bet On It, and I and Ralph will talk about it on the NFL presidential address. I'm just going to say now, Green Bay is a sell, and they're going to be a sell for a while. This is a team that got lucky beating Minnesota. They got lucky beating Denver, and they looked god-awful in the second half against Philadelphia. I don't think Green Bay is a good team right now. But with that said, from a line move perspective, at 3.5, I'd probably wait if I was betting on Green Bay, and I'd probably wait if I was betting on Dallas, because frankly, I'll risk the 3.5 to 4 if I'm taking Dallas, just to see if Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers can get enough money on them to bring it down to 3. I think this line's going to stay where it is.
Yeah, 3.5 looks like a good number. The look-ahead number was 4 in this game at the Westgate a week ago, before yesterday's games were played. Green Bay, they lose on Thursday night. Dallas looked, let's be honest, they did nothing in that game yesterday. Very,
well, they got the memo
performance from the Dallas. They got you had the Dallas.
Like the memo went out, and they had a meeting, and they're like, is it more important for us to win or for Prez to lose? They took a vote. It was almost unanimous, and they laid an egg.
I don't have an opinion on this game yet. I will say this. If this line gets to 3, I'm probably going to get very interested in the Cowboys, because I think the situation with this game is this. The public is going to look at it. Both teams are coming off of losses. Do I want Aaron Rodgers or do I want Dak Prescott? And just on that word, I think John Q. Public is going to gravitate to Green Bay like they always do. The difference between the two teams here is, after you say Aaron Rodgers versus Dak Prescott, where are the other matchups? All the other matchups favor the Cowboys. You got the better running game with Zeke Elliott. You got the betting.
That's the most important factor, because what we saw Philadelphia do to Green Bay on the ground, Zeke is going to have a monster. The time of possession in this game is going to be very lopsided.
It should be with the Cowboys against the Green Bay defense. We heard all this stuff about how improved the Green Bay defense was so far this year. That was a mirage. They did it with smoke and mirrors. They got exposed on Thursday night. And let's not forget, that team that went up and down the field on them Thursday night was banged up. They had a ton of injuries on that Philadelphia team Thursday, playing on a short week on the road. Now Green Bay is going to have a few extra days. That is an advantage for Green Bay. But this is one of those ones where I'm going to see where the market takes this. I think 3.5 is the fair number, and that's where it should be and where it should stay. But let's see if it makes that other drop to 3. And then I might get very interested in
2 more games. Let's race through them. Kansas City line came out at 9. It's at 11. Over and under came out at 54. 89%.
That's gone. I said that is long gone.
57 across the board right now. There is a 56.5 out there, and there's no total low enough to keep people from betting the overs in the Kansas City game. And I'm going to talk about this game a lot on the NFL presidential address. I think this might be the one under all year for Kansas City. I think Indianapolis is going to come into this game and slow this thing down to a bloody crawl.
They have to.
I don't think it's going higher than 11. Marco, I think we're going to see this being bet the other way soon. I think we've seen a lot of money coming in on Kansas City to move it from 9 to 11, and I think towards the end of the week we're going to see a lot of money coming in on the Colts. If you're betting the Colts, bet them right now.
Because if the line does go up, where's it going to go? It's going to go to 11.5, 12 and a half, going to be dead numbers. Is this line going to get to 13? No, it's not going to get that high.
It's going to get to 9.5.
Well, right now, we'll see if it does do that. But I agree with you. If you like Indianapolis, now's the time to do it before you lose the over 10. I'm going to give a tip here for anybody that's watching these games when the lines come out, when they first come out. If you have a primetime game like you have here with Indianapolis and Kansas City, and one of the teams is a popular high-flying team like the Chiefs are, blindly run the minute the lines are opened and bet the over. Blindly. Because is the fact that it's a TV game on Sunday night, the public's going to get involved and going to drive it up. I can tell you that's a lot of this money. Okay, John Q. Public's not betting the over on Sunday night or Monday morning for the following week, because most guys that have to post up, they're not betting on credit. They're going to their books, or they have a shop where they put their money in their account. They don't want to tie their money up from the Sunday before to the following Sunday. So that's not those guys doing it. But the sharps know what the public's going to do. So they want to get in front of it and try to grab the numbers that they can grab, with the intent that once this thing, that the steam starts going one direction, and then you get the steam chasers jumping on board and following it, you get this number up to 57 like it is now. When the public gets involved, it might get a tick higher than that. But then I guarantee you, come Sunday night, an hour before game time, you're going to see this total drop. And that's going to be because the sharps are going to come in and bet the under. And they're going to bet the over at 54.5, 55, 55.5, and 56 on the way up. And they're going to get the higher number when they're betting the game on its way down. And they're just hoping for the game to land in the middle or have more money on the under at the better number now later in the week. But if you want to get yourself and be in a good position to hedge a bet or just to have the best of it, bet those opening primetime games with a high-flying team like the Chiefs in it. Always grab the over on the first blink that you can get.
He's Marco D'Angelo. I'm the Prez. You're watching The Betting Edge with the Prez every Monday to Friday. Every Monday it'll just be Marco and I, although we might bring Oscar in where we'll do the NFL opening line report. We just had another book move Tennessee to 3, another book move New Orleans to 3.5. And Pinnacle went from plus 117 on the 4.5 to 113. Man, there is so much action on this New Orleans Tampa Bay game right now. San Fran, Marco, and then let's call it a day. -5. It's now down to 3.5. Yet, again, 73% of the tickets are being written on the Niners. A lot of smart money coming in on Cleveland. A lot of wise guys jumped all over the Browns at 5, 4.5, and 4. We have a total at 48. Marco, the object in gambling, period, is to beat the closing line. Have the best number, and you will do well more often than you won't. This closing line is going to be 3.
I don't know that it gets to 3, but there will be love coming in on Cleveland. I don't understand how Chris opened this line at 5. Chris is the opener that I saw the 5 at. The look-ahead line was Westgate at 4. How do you look at Cleveland and San Francisco when you had a look-ahead line of 4? And San Francisco didn't play this week, so they didn't get better or worse. And Cleveland exceeded expectations by beating the snot out of Baltimore yesterday. And yet you're going to say, we're going to make San Francisco 5. I don't know who the brain trust was down there that hung a 5 up on this game, but It was idiotic, and I'll say it to your face. This line should have at worst come out at 4, that it was the look-ahead line, or make the common sense adjustment based on what the eye test was yesterday. And Cleveland finally played like they lived up to the hype of the offseason and beat the snot out of Baltimore. 3.5 is the number that it should have opened at. Where it goes, and I'm not saying that I like Cleveland. I'm saying 3.5 is the number it should have opened at. And what the market does with that from now, we'll see. That was a big game for Cleveland yesterday. Now they got to go on the West Coast and play third and 4 weeks, primetime Sunday night or Monday game for the Browns. They're getting a lot of TV exposure this year because of that hype train. And San Francisco had a bye week. Now, the bye weeks, Prez, early in the season are not as valuable as they are later in the season. Unless we talked about the other team on a bye, which was the Jets, that were breaking in an inexperienced quarterback because of injuries. Then you want that bye week to have that extra week. But for a team like San Francisco that got off to a good start, the last thing you want to do is have a bye week early in the season and break your momentum. But be careful of Cleveland. This is a team that's just learning how to win. And after such a monumental win yesterday, because let's face it, that basically was their season yesterday. If they would have lost to Baltimore yesterday, the division, you might as well have handed it to Baltimore already, because they would have been 3-1 in the division. They would have, and then they have Cincinnati and Pittsburgh on deck as Baltimore. They would have had a big leg up on the division. Cleveland winning that game makes it a race. And now they got to go cross country and play at San Francisco. And then they come back home and play Seattle. Never an easy game. And then they get their bye week. And oh, well, who do they get after their bye? The New England Patriots. So this is a string of big games for Cleveland in a row. Rams, Baltimore, San Francisco, Seattle, New England. This might be the soft spot for them, that they might just feel a little fat and sassy after what they did. And people are going to dismiss San Francisco because although they're 3-0, it was against Tampa, Cincy, and Pittsburgh. And boy, doesn't that sound familiar to what people said about Buffalo going into the game yesterday? They hadn't beaten anybody. You can only play who's put in front of you, and San Francisco is taking care of business. And even though they only beat my Pittsburgh Steelers by 4 points, I got to point out the fact, yes, the Steelers had a backup quarterback in there for Big Ben, but San Francisco turned the ball over 5 times in that game. That's why Pittsburgh was in that game, was because of the 5 turnovers. The San Francisco team, remember, they were the darling 2 years ago, and then you had the injury to Jimmy G. Let's see what happens this time. If this thing gets to 3, I'm all about the 49ers, but I think 3.5's the right number.
Marco D'Angelo! Show's done, my brother. You got another one starting in 5 minutes.
I know. Go get a drink and take care of business and do
Thanks,
another show.
Friend.
That's what it's about.
Congratulations on your incredible football run, 23-7 in your last